with AI. 90 to 95% of AI application companies are going to go out of business.
You would bootstrap to product market fit. That's when you want to go raise money.
The nirvana state raising money is when you already have product market fit and you're already growing revenue fast.
The world that we live in is designed for people. So if we want robots to be able to be around our world and not have to redesign the world for them, they need to look like us and be able to sit in a chair. And
I am 95% certain that humanity is going to create an age of abundance for all. Robots coming in, like an NGO coming in with an army of robots building the clean water supply they need, the electrical configuration and pipelining to create energy in the country in the first place, the projects to create food that they need to grow, the healthcare they need. This age could create an oasis in Chad. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Love Conquers Fear podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about how humanity is going to make it over the next 10 to 15 years to the age of abundance for all. I'm having amazing entrepreneurs, amazing technologists, scientists, spiritual teachers, as well as philosophers on this podcast. And today you may notice I'm wearing a t-shirt, and this is a t-shirt that was given out at the recent Aspen Action Forum. I'm a proud Henry Crown Fellow, thanks to our guest today, Josh Baer. Josh is a fellow Henry Crown Fellow. He's the founder and CEO of Capital Factory. And I'm really, really proud to welcome Josh Baer to this podcast. We've done many podcasts together, and this is the first one we're doing for Love Conquers Fear, and we've got a lot to talk about. So welcome, Josh.
glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is also the first ever Love Conquers Fear podcast with Doggy in tow.
Stormy's here. I don't know how much she's going to contribute, but she might have some deep thoughts to share with us towards the end.
Yeah, we're talking about earlier that River and Cosmo and Esther are going to be very jealous when this podcast goes viral in the doggy world, and they're going to be like, you didn't even include us, and we're in the house,
right.
But here we are. So why don't we start with how we first met? So Deborah and I moved back from San Francisco on July 4th, 2003. I'll never forget when we're driving back into my hometown, the town I was born in 1972. The fireworks were going off as I was driving the big U-Haul. And shortly after that, I joined Bootstrap Austin, which is from our mutual friend, Bijoy Goswami.
Which is a monthly meetup. And it was really one of the first monthly meetups I remember. Now there's like 2 or 3 every day, every night happening at Capital Factory. But back then there weren't many groups to join.
Yeah, and Austin had been kind of decimated. I saw the height of the boom in Silicon Valley because we moved there at the beginning of 2000. I saw the dot-com bust, the depths of despair, and then the slow green shoots. But just take us back to that time when we first met.
Yeah, well, I just moved here as well. I moved here in 1999. I just graduated from college, so a little bit behind you.
Yeah.
And
CMU, right?
Carnegie Mellon, yep. And came here to work at Trilogy, which is its whole own podcast and story. But was most importantly just a really great group of people that I was surrounded by, and that that brought me here to Austin, and I got to be immersed in. And Austin, like the rest of a lot of places in the U.S. and certainly in tech, was peaking, was not just booming, was peaking.
Yeah,
right. And so it was just the peak of the dot-com boom. Things were crazy. And things were really different in the Austin startup market, venture market. The types of companies that were being successful were different. The types of entrepreneurs that could get funded were different. There was really only one VC firm, Austin Ventures.
Yep.
And very few other investors would invest in a company based in Austin, both because they wanted to be close to it and because there was this generally common assumption that if Austin Ventures didn't invest in it, it must not be a good one, because they had a year and they were like seeing all the good ones.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so Austin Ventures was big, really big. And people like John Thornton and Joe Regona and others were kind of icons for the venture space, Bill Wood. And then one of the things that's been consistent that whole time, it's now been, more than 25 years, is Brett, you were one of the top entrepreneurs in town. Like, at that time you were coming back from Silicon Valley, which was like, oh my God, like you had gone off to Silicon Valley and built a company there. Now you're coming back to do one here. And that gave you a lot of credibility and a lot of legitimacy, and was really rare back then, right? Like there weren't very many people that had spent time in Silicon Valley. And back to now where that's actually much more common. Like that by itself wouldn't stand you out. But now you built so many companies that I just look at you as somebody that, like, in particular, when you want to go launch something new, you can just immediately assemble this world-class team of like all the people that you've worked with at all the different companies along the way. And that, that puts you in a great spot that you can to go launch stuff.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I remember, coming back, and one of the things that I thought was so odd, and I thought I needed to be a voice of reason in, is there was such a strong bent towards bootstrapping that I thought,
in fact, that's what brought us together. Right?
I know. And, and the reason I joined Bootstrap Boston was not because I thought bootstrapping was the only way, but because I had a club in Silicon Valley with Aaron Hoffman that we had co-founded called Mind Exchange. And it was where we got together.
And Aaron's another great mutual friend who
he's terrific. And Aaron and I had this club where we got other successful entrepreneurs, and we're all like early in our careers. But we got together to discuss like trends, what was happening. And usually there was an entrepreneur presenting that wanted help with their business plan. And we kind of beat that up together with lots of love, but lots of really good feedback. And so I was looking to start something like that here. And I forgot how I found out about Bootstrap Boston, but I was like, oh, it already exists. Like this is a great insertion point.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. I mean, what Bazaarvoice did with that created a lot of value, bringing a lot of good people together. But one of the things I thought that was so weird is there was just such a anti-VC bent.
I mean, well, Bazaarvoice was particularly on mission.
Right.
But it's funny because I was certainly singing that song.
Right.
And,
you had largely bootstrapped your company.
I had never raised funding for anything.
Yeah.
I had barely ever invested in anything. I made a few angel investments, and really, like, I was like all about like, yeah, bootstrapping's great. And I didn't know great successful venture-backed entrepreneurs. And I didn't even know what does that movie look like?
Right.
What does it look like when it's successful? Right.
Yeah.
So I feel very naive in hindsight, kind of looking back.
Yeah.
I still love bootstrapping.
Yeah.
When I go start something, my instinct is to bootstrap it.
Right.
Like, I don't think like I'm going to start something, I need to go raise money.
Right.
Like, I think I'm going to start something like, how do I get it moving? Right. Like really quickly. And then, okay, well, yeah, there'll be points where we need money. And fortunately I'm in a spot where I can like either put some money in, or I also can, probably, I can raise money if I need to. But like, yeah, it's just like, my instinct is like, well, I just want to build it. I don't want to actually take money if I don't have to. That's more hassle, like now I realize that to do really big, important things, it usually takes a lot of money.
Right.
But in my kind of like now post, hindsight looking back, I feel like bootstrapping is, it's just this great influence.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Like, and nothing goes exactly according to the playbook. Nothing, like you can't just plan it out and like that's okay. It happened just the way I thought it would. But if you could, like you would bootstrap to product market fit.
Right.
Like you'd kind of like hustle it together until you had it really like dial in. And you're like, no, I got it. Like, here's the model. I know the deal. I know who my customer is. I know how to acquire them. I know what it costs. Stick some money in this end, and there's a lot more money coming out the other end, right?
Yeah.
Like that's when you want to go raise money.
Yeah. The nirvana state of raising money is when you already have product market fit and you're already growing revenue fast, because it's going to be very little dilution at that point because you've de-risked the business, and B, you have some handle over how you're actually going to scale it. I mean, that's the nirvana state.
Yeah.
There's very few companies that actually
everything
have that
standpoint
characteristic.
Like
yeah. I mean, but like, take a company like Aptronic now, which you guys are big investors in. You cannot really bootstrap a robot.
No, you can't. And they're not. And look, like, and just as that example, like they've made it so far. They've got huge proof points.
Yeah.
Great partnerships with Google, with Daimler, with other big companies. And yet, like, it's not like they could check all those boxes I just said.
Right.
You know, like we have a vision of product market fit.
Right.
They have billions of dollars in pre-orders.
I know.
Like, I mean, like, lots of people want it,
Yeah.
right? But it's like, it's not even like actually like really out in the market yet. You know, like
Right.
it's just in tests. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that product market fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, to get to to get to the point where you've got actual, affordable, safe humanoid robots, guess what? It takes 20 years.
Yeah, it all depends on what it is. And I explored this in my book, my first book, The Entrepreneur's Essentials. I explored this really deeply on Bootstrap or VC. And the ideal state is if you can do a mix of the two. And I know we're going to get into AI today, but there's probably never been a better time to try to bootstrap now with AI. You can do so much with so little.
Totally.
So it's really,
But like, then the flip side of that is, as an investor, you're really cautious. What do I invest in? What's its differentiator? Because it's so easy to go do these things.
That's right. That's right.
Because someone without money can go do so much.
Yeah. 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 I have a thesis on that. I know we're a bit on a tangent, but I'll give you my thesis on this.
Yeah.
Because whenever Deborah and I are,
Let's not worry about any more tangents.
yeah, but whenever we're investing in a company now, I am thinking to myself, is this durable in an exponential acceleration with AI, quantum computing, robotics? Like, is this something that even can stand the test of 2 years? Or is it going to have the Jasper AI problem? I was an investor in Jasper, but as you remember, Jasper was using GPT back when it was an API form from OpenAI. And they created this nice wrapper to create marketing content, et cetera. And then ChatGPT launched. And that was a near terminal event for Jasper. And Mitchell Green, one of my friends who I introduced you to recently, who's actually
A long time ago.
yeah, I mean, actually, he is my most successful self-made friend. Like I remember that Austin Ventures crowd, the GPs were kind of frankly making fun of him, even though he was like super helpful at Bazaarvoice. And he now manages over 5 billion in capital, which is more than AV ever managed cumulatively in their whole lifetime. And it's because he has a model that works. And, we're investors in his funds. We're an investor in your funds. We really believe in you both. But he was saying recently on CNBC, as well as many other outlets, that he thinks 90 to 95% of AI application companies are going to go out of business. I very much agree with them on that. Do you have a take on that?
I buy it. Like,
Yeah.
short-term solutions.
Yeah, I just think so.
I mean, a lot of it's just going to just fold into core ChatGPT functionality.
Yeah.
It's just going to be able to do those things. Like,
Yeah, so my current thesis, at least, is that if it's a company, if you're thinking about starting a company, and it's a company that could go from 0 to $1 billion in ARR, but that's really hard to do and requires a lot of verticalization and services, that may be durable. Because if you're an OpenAI or Anthropic or any of these models, which are growing just by leaps and bounds. I mean, Anthropic went from 900 million to 5 billion of AR in the last 10 months. OpenAI now is at 12 billion of AR, and we're less than 1,000 days since the launch of ChatGPT. I mean, this never happened before. It took Salesforce 18 years to get 10 billion of AR. It took ServiceNow 21 years to get 10 billion of AR. And so we're just blowing past those milestones. Is that type of market, where you could get to $1 billion of AR, is probably too small for them to care about. And if it's verticalized and there's enough services wrapped around it, you probably will not get run over.
I mean, I think that's right. Just like tailoring really tightly to a customer.
Yeah.
Is still always going to matter.
Yeah. Well, coming back to, how we know each other, we really developed a tight relationship as very close friends with the beginning of Bazaarvoice. And
Right. Because really, I was better friends with Deborah.
that's true. Actually, you should tell the story about that. Not that she's in the market anymore for what she used to do.
Right. Well, we had met early on, and we were just talking, and I was a bachelor and moving into a really nice new house and nice new part of town, and it was empty. And you were like, "My wife's an interior decorator. Like, you should talk to her."
Yeah.
And I really, like, honestly, I didn't know anybody, and And actually, I got along great with Deborah. Like, we really hit it off. Like, she was super fun to be around, and I liked all the stuff she picked out. And so she totally decorated my house. And in the process, like, I spent a lot of time with her.
Yeah.
Like, really lots of her time, like way more time than I'd spent with you for a long time. For the beginning. And so yeah, I'd say, for probably the first couple of years of our relationship, I felt like I kind of knew her better than you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she is an amazing interior designer and
I'm a great person.
and a great person and my soulmate, 29 years and counting of marriage. So, but, through Bazaarvoice, I had a real need and you had an interesting business model because you had bootstrapped and you didn't have investors to answer to. You were able to kind of do different things with your business with other inbox, where you had like a little side business where you would rent out. I don't know if you did this for a lot of people, but you didn't for me.
Which was actually before other inbox.
Okay, this is before other.
And so the way this came about is I had my
Skylist.
I had Skylist, which was my first business, which was an email service provider, something like a MailChimp or Constant Contact. And I had bootstrapped that. And I had a computer science degree, and we probably shouldn't have, but we built our own software and platform for most of our time we were in business. And so I had a pretty large development team that was building all that. And then around 2001, they passed a new law called Can Spam, which was really designed to put some basic rules around email marketing. Simple things like requiring that if somebody unsubscribes, you have to stop emailing them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, as much as they sound so obvious and simple now, they weren't actually the way it worked in postal mail.
All right.
And so we had to like adapt the laws for postal mail, and that's really a big part of what it did. And so as that came out, it did, it changed the industry. The industry worked a certain way, and I was in the middle of it. And I could see that suddenly everybody was not following the rules because they passed a new rule. And there was this opportunity to create a SaaS solution to help people comply with this law. And so very quickly, in about 30 days, I had our team developed and launched this solution on SubCentral. And at the time, I was, honestly, like, I think it was the right thing to do, but I was just, experimenting with being an entrepreneur and having my own business. And I looked at it and I was like, well, I'm kind of launching this other business. And I think it has the potential to be its own business that's separate. And actually marketing strategically, I wanted to position it because I wanted all my competitors of Skylist to collaborate and work with in order to be on SubCentral. It had to like work with all of us. And so I really wanted to be separate. And so I said, well, actually, so that means I kind of need a third company that's really just a development company.
All right.
And I'm just going to like hire them out to build stuff for both of my companies.
Yeah.
But internally for me. And that was the beginning of the first company, which was, so the first one was Skylist. The next company was Capital Thought.
Yeah, Capital Thought.
And I named that. And that was really kind of like my think tank. That were my like group of developers that could go build things, could take ideas and turn them into capital reality, and things that mattered. And we did it for SubCentral. And then the next thing we did is we built that project for you. And I remember it's kind of like you, as I think of it, and tell me, you may remember it differently, but it was quite a while ago. But as I remember it was like, you had started to pull your team together. You had the idea, you had some initial customers lined up, and you hadn't closed your big and like serious lead investors. You brought angel investors.
Right, that's right.
And you also even hadn't built out the whole team. So you didn't have your CTO yet. And so you came to me and you say, hey, Josh, like you just built that other thing really fast. Like, do you think like I could hire a couple of your guys? And you knew some of my guys and they were good guys. And you're like, can I get some of them to like work on this for me while I build my team? And it was, I think, positioned the whole time from the beginning as a temporary solution. It was like, hey, I'm going to go raise money and I'm going to like build a team.
Yep.
And so this is not a permanent solution, but like until then, can you start building the demo? I'm like in the beta and get it out there. And so I think we worked for about 9 months in total. And I probably had about 2 or 3 people work, or 2.5 people on my team working on it. As I recall, I think you paid us about $12,000 a month. And I think my cost sounds about right. I think my cost was a little bit more than that. But I was like, really excited about working with you. And I was like,
I always thought that I was allowing you to at least break even on that.
It was close. Yes. Yeah. Like, it was like a little bit more. And I was like, but like, this is I thought it would work out. I thought it'd be interesting. And then,
that gave you a lot of equity though.
Well, you gave me a stock option grant. Yep. But at the time, honestly, like how many stock option grants had I ever received?
Right.
Like, I don't know if any,
right.
Maybe just Trilogy, I guess Trilogy, right?
Right.
And so you gave me a stock option grant, but I didn't like negotiate anything with you.
Right.
You just So I didn't know what it was.
Right.
Apparently it was a very good, generous stock.
It was, and well, we know it was.
Yeah, right. But like I didn't know what it was. And so I just got this stock option grant, and that's my first experience kind of going through that. And one of the other things that was so great about that experience is you're such a great communicator and you're already an experienced CEO that you already from the beginning of that company sent out this weekly email to all the investors.
Yeah.
With just here's the update, here's what's going on. And so not only did I get to like effectively invest through my time, through my team in the company from the very beginning, get some stock, which ended up being worth millions of dollars and was life-changing for me and definitely like effectively funded the beginning of Capital Factory.
Yeah, that's
Was me
incredible.
having that money to be able to go invest in stuff and help start it. But in addition to all that, I got this kind of like this like backseat experience of like watching you drive Bazaarvoice, right? And like every week seeing the updates all the way up until the last email that was like, we're going public next week. I'm not going to be able to send these updates.
All right.
Like it's the last bird.
I remember that. Yeah, the only modification I'd say on that email is like I did not give a timeline, and you're a little bit off on the timeline on that. I sent it 6 months prior to IPO because I was told by the lawyers you have
At
to
some
stop
point, yeah, at
this.
some point you were like, I'm stopping
No,
this.
the lawyers told me you have to stop this, and I was fighting with them. No, I don't want to stop this, and they're like, you have to stop this.
Yeah.
You were going to be a public company.
But it was amazing. It's like I got this whole kind of like backseat view of,
Yeah,
just this.
no, I remember it.
This incredible ride. And Bazaarvoice was such an incredible ride. Showed me. It was the first time also I was just part of a company where there were so many oversubscribed up rounds, and you get to see like what's it look like when everything works right. And like
Right,
not quite up until the IPO, but like
right.
but it was like, oh my God, like every round up till the IPO was like oversubscribed, everybody like begging you to sell some more shares, like, right? And like everybody that had invested early just making money and making money and making money. It was like just this money tree that just like kept going and going and going and going. Yeah, that was an incredible ride.
Yeah, it really was. Well, you helping me out with that early on actually gave us the time to hire the team right. Like, because we already had customers and it was the ideal scenario. And the most amazing thing about Bazaarvoice is that Y Combinator, which I wasn't a member of, but they said that it was one of the top 3 most capital efficient companies in history. And for SaaS, and the reason why is that we only raised $23 million prior to IPO, and we had $13 million left in the bank at $100 million AR when we went public.
Wow.
And the reason why is that we were mostly applying what we were talking about earlier, the bootstrap and VC model in combination. We got to cash flow break even on the Series A, which Austin Ventures did lead. And, Chris Pacitti and Tom Ball were fantastic on the board. They both were really helpful. And then later Battery Ventures came on board, and later Lead Edge Capital, Mitchell Green. And, it was because we got to cash flow break even so early that then everything was kind of optionality. And it was all like, how fast do we want to grow? The only thing that really would have ran that company prior to IPO is if we started it and we were raising money in 2021. Because 2021, people probably would have been putting hundreds of millions of dollars and placing billions of dollars of valuation on it. And in the ZERP period, that would have been a whole different thing. But given that we're building the company in the post.com bust where people were so conservative,
Everything was super.
that helped.
Yeah.
That really, really helped. So fast forward on Capital Factory today, because I know you just had the Fed Supernova Conference, which I think your biggest event of the year.
For sure.
And just what does Capital Factory look like today? I mentioned we're investors in your funds, but it's kind of incredible what it's actually become at this point. I mean, it's incredible to me.
Yeah, well, it's incredible to me. I have a blast every day. Just came from there, and Capital Factory, it's it's a community, and so it's kind of like different things to different people. I think externally to most people, how they do it, we're the most active early stage investor in Texas. So we don't have the biggest fund or the most money under management, but we're connected to the most companies. We're in the most deals. Pretty much every week we're investing in a different company that we've been working with usually for a long time, but that is now, at the right time and raising money. We're one of the most active space, robotics, satellite, hypersonics investors in the country. And all of those things are like hardware.
Yeah.
Which also, if you think back to when we met each other.
Yeah.
And when Austin Ventures was investing,
Yeah.
you couldn't invest in hardware.
No, it was
You
software
couldn't
city.
raise money for those kinds of things. It was a software world.
Yeah.
Right? It was just really hard to raise money
That's
for
true.
hardware.
It's more.
And also, it was really hard to raise money for any company that worked with the government. That was bad. It was a poison pill. It was a bad thing. And it turns out that as much as I never expected this, because I thought software was going to eat the world, and software was like here to stay, and software was going to be the best thing forever. It kind of did all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if you agree with this, but my experience now, and this is almost even a small example of abundance and some of the effects, but the abundance of SaaS is that SaaS isn't such a great investment anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Like,
I think
if you're a good SaaS company, you don't need that much money.
you don't need that much money.
And it's super competitive because
Yes.
you have really well understood metrics. And if you're really good, like everybody wants to invest in you, and there's a lot of if there's a lot of market, you're going to get a good price,
Yeah.
like you're going to get a deal. Like, so it just doesn't seem as exciting. It's not like I mean, I like SaaS. There's still going to be some good deals to go out there. I'm sure we'll make a lot of good investments, but it's not nearly as differentiated or exciting anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of my friends who I'm going to have on this podcast came out with this great book recently called Deep Future. His name is Pablos Holman. I'm not sure if I've ever introduced you to him, but amazing guy, real futurist. Used to work for Nathan Myhrvold at Intellectual Ventures, who was the CTO of Microsoft, in the past. And he thinks all the action is in what he's calling deep tech, which to be clear, like the original large language models are deep tech, and, the power consumption, everything that it takes to build a frontier model today, that's really hard. And there are at the same time certain SaaS businesses being formed right now that are going from 0 to 100 million of AR very, very fast. But those are very much the exception. And even going to that doesn't mean they're durable. Doesn't mean that
And it doesn't mean they're a good investment. Like you going to get good terms, or you're going to, I'm not saying there aren't good ones out there, but it's not nearly as, like, it used to be just like, there was just this green field of like, apply SaaS.
Yeah.
Like to every business.
No, that's true.
We're past that, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's not unique anymore. It's like, that's the killer business model.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like, it's not that it got worse, it's that it got so good,
Yeah.
that it's just commoditized. It's not a good investment anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if people outside of Austin realize how diversified Austin has become now. So maybe just you're the most in the know on this, right? With how many investments you guys have. Maybe just rattle off some of the deep tech investments that were born here. One of the things I like to remind people is that Tesla now is the largest private employer in Austin. It's 23,000 employees. Dell is around 11,000. So that is pretty new. I mean, Tesla's been around for a while, but moving their headquarters here, and all the companies around that, from Neuralink to Boring Company to SpaceX nearby, et cetera. But outside of the Elon Musk kind of empire of companies, what else is going on here in Austin?
I mean, just everything is going on in Austin. If it's really interesting and it's really hot, then people here are working on it.
Yeah.
Because Austin is a great place to live. And so it attracts some of the just best, most portable, like, people in the world who have choices of where they can live and what they can go do. And post-COVID, more than ever, they can go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so guess what? Like, they're all coming to Austin.
Yeah.
And not necessarily everybody, but it's self-selected. People that fit this culture, that want to be part of it, that want to be part of this growth, that want to build something, that somehow are in what I think of as this messy middle, right? Of like, conservative and progressive and all kinds of different policies and lots of experiments happening.
Yeah.
But it's attracting Elon Musk and Joe Lonsdale and Jim Breyer and lots of other people that are coming here to build big companies and do hard things.
And some of these companies, I mean, just to rattle off some that I can think of, Icon 3D Homes, like you guys were in early.
Yeah, so
amazing
3D printer that prints concrete to print homes.
Yeah, yeah, and won a big contract with NASA.
They're going to be printing the moon base.
Yeah, which is crazy that we're talking about a moon base, which is so cool.
We have two other companies that landed on the moon this year.
Yeah,
Intuitive Machines and Firefly Space.
Yeah,
both Texas companies.
Yeah.
Another one that IPO'd this year are 3 space IPOs, the third one being Voyager Space, who just is building the next space station, Starlab.
Yeah. Run by Henry Crown Phillip.
Run by our friend Dylan. And so, yeah, like those kinds of things that I never imagined us investing in 5 years ago, never mind 10 or 15 years ago. Paradromics, which is a invasive brain interface company, is now creating a high bandwidth link between computers and your brain.
Yeah, competitor to Neuralink, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the same space, so you're not doing the exact same thing, but definitely in that same space. And then so many other, really interesting.
What about Optronic?
Yeah, in the robotic spaces and others. Robotics means so many different things today. It means humanoid robots like Aptronic, which we just invested more than $100 million into as part of a $400 million round with Google.
That's the most you have ever invested in a company.
That was basically more than we had invested in anything combined.
Wow.
And then we doubled it.
And that just happened.
Yeah. So yeah, our AUM is going to triple this year. But yeah, that's like, and that's really about what we believe may be the biggest market in the world, which is all of human labor, everything that people do. And moving super, super quick, definitely something that leads towards the world of abundance where you have people to help you, robots to help you with all the things that you need to go do. Aptronic is addressing what, probably is one of the biggest markets in the whole world, which is all of human labor, anything that people can go do. And that's the whole concept of why is it a humanoid robot? Why doesn't have wheels or a different format or, it's because the world that we live in is designed for people.
Right.
So if we want robots to be able to be around our world and not have to redesign the world for them, they need to look like us and be able to sit in a chair and walk around this chair and move it and twist it and do all the things that we do. And that's what the promise of these humanoid robots brings. And that's massive. And then robotics is so many other things. Robotics is drones. Not everybody thinks of a drone as a robot, but robots are really about autonomy. Robots are about, affecting things in the world and having them happen automatically. And drones are one of the most popular examples of that. Most drones that consumers think about are really just cameras. That's what a drone is it's a camera that can move around.
Yeah.
And, and the cameras can do lots of things. Cameras can look, different kinds of cameras, and cameras can have AI inside. And so cameras can, inspect things and other things like that. And then more and more, the drones can do things. The drones can apply, they can clean things. They can apply coatings to things. They can, sometimes go fix things.
Yeah.
And that's all with drones. Then there's things happening automatically in space. One of the biggest signs to me of Austin really being able to do anything and like having just kind of everything going on here is the fact that we have Saronic here, another great company that's raised hundreds of millions of dollars, gotten billions of dollars in contracts with the Navy and the U.S. government. And they're building autonomous boats for the Navy in Austin.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Why are there's no ocean here.
Right.
Like, why are they building boats? Okay, we have a lake, but like, why are they building boats here? It's because the talent and the people are here that they need.
Yeah.
And to me, that says, like, if we can go build the future of shipbuilding here, and of course, they're going to end up with, offices in other places and shipyards in other places. But if this is the headquarters for the shipbuilders, you don't do anything else.
That's a very good example. So, one of the things that I know you're pretty hardwired as an optimist like me, because I know you really well. We talk about this stuff a lot. I'm at the place where I am 95% certain that humanity is going to create an age of abundance for all. And let me just describe what for all means in my mind. So, one of the things I talk about in my book, the second book I'm writing, which is called Love Conquers Fear with the subtitle Humanity, AI, and the Age of Abundance for All, as I talk about this Uber driver that picked me up, delightful guy named Kalabu from this country, Chad in Africa. Never had heard of it before. Was kind of embarrassed I didn't hear it before. I just fell in love with this guy. We were having such a great conversation, asked him all about his family. And I started looking it up on ChatGPT, and we started having a conversation about Chad and found out pretty quickly it's number 187 out of 189 on the Human Development Index, that their GDP is 660 a person versus around our 85,000 in the US. And my mind almost immediately went to the country of Chad needs AI and robots. That is the only hope for a country like Chad, is the robots coming in, like an NGO coming in with an army of robots building the clean water supply they need, the electrical configuration and, pipelining, the energy projects, to create energy in the country in the first place, the projects to create, the food that they need to grow, the healthcare they need. And it really took me in this place where I was visioning on this ride. I was like, oh my gosh, this age could create an oasis in Chad. Kind of like what you were saying, if a Navy, ship company could start in Austin, like imagine if Chad could be an oasis. And that could actually happen in this lifetime. I mean, where are you at on your percentage between, I'm at 95%. Where are you?
In what did you say? What time frame did you say?
In the next 10 to 15 years.
10 to 15.
Yeah. I think the next 10 to 15 years, just to frame it, is we're in such an exponential curve. I think a week of tech progress right now is like a year of tech progress 10 years ago. And I think 10 years from now, an hour or two of tech progress is going to be like a week today. That's the only way I can even grok exponential. And that's going to take us to this place where the capability for us to destroy ourselves is going to be very pronounced, but the capability for us to create an age of abundance for all is also going to be very pronounced, and it'll be up to humanity to make a choice. Like, what do we want?
Yeah. So I'm pretty optimistic. I don't claim to be like omniscient.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not either. I'm not making a prediction.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm frequently wrong. But when I look back at the progression of technology through human history, it certainly is following the acceleration that you talked about. And we can all see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as just every year feels like it advances even faster and it's harder to keep up with. And the changes that have come in 10 years now compared to the past 100 years and, things like that. So I believe that. I think that's true. And when I look at the evolution of technology, there's been lots of cases where technology has lots of potentially bad use cases.
Mm-hmm.
And while nothing's perfect, and there's examples of things going wrong, we generally have seemed to use technology for good.
Mm-hmm.
And nuclear power being an example of that. Like, we've done some bad things with nuclear power. Or no, sorry, we're necessarily nuclear weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's been pretty limited. And people have different perspectives about what the Cold War meant and deterrence and things like that. But nuclear power seems like a really promising thing right now, as far as having a lot of potential good.
Yeah. I hope that the U.S. gets after it with nuclear power, though.
Yeah,
it's still a taboo thing.
That seems to be changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be changing. We have two small nuclear companies we recently invested in. They're really cool. One of them building small nuclear reactors that are modular to put at primarily data centers. And the idea being modular ones are easier to produce. You build them in a factory or you're getting better at them, making a lot of them.
Assembly line nuclear reactors.
Yep, exactly, which they're building here in Austin, Allo Atomics. And then the other one, uses mining technology and puts the reactor a mile underground.
Mm-hmm.
Because then by doing so, you don't need to build any of the other protected infrastructure around it. Like, there's no containment needed.
Right.
And they literally just put water on top of it, and literally the water pressure of a mile, right, will completely, without any electricity, without any
Right.
completely contain anything that could happen.
Yeah.
And so it has some really interesting benefits.
It's amazing and
Creates the potential.
little we know about how far you could actually dig into the earth, and even what's down.
What's amazing is how much we know. Maybe not everybody knows, but we can dig really deep.
Yeah.
And they can do stuff. And so yeah, I think, nuclear is an example where that's happened. And AI is so far another example where that's happened. And yes, AI could be used to do really terrible things, to deceive people. And, there's conspiracy theories about China using TikTok to and make all of our children have mental health problems. think that's like, I don't think that's directly intentionally happening. There may be some effects of that or influences, but like, I don't really think that's happening, but like, it could happen. Like, that's not totally unthinkable, right?
All right.
And when you look at what happened with just small drones and what the Ukraine and Israelis have done with the sneaking drones in and having, secret drone attacks,
Mm-hmm.
it looks so smart, but like the US is way more susceptible to that. Like if China wanted to do that to the US,
Mm-hmm.
like we're screwed. Like they could have tons of, like suddenly have tons of drones taken over doing bad things.
Right.
And, and it could be really bad. And so, yet generally drones are being used to do really good things.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I'm optimistic. Like I see that so far playing out to that, things being better, things continuing to get better, people working towards the right things. I try to just be a positive influence.
Mm-hmm.
How do I make sure that I'm at least contributing to these things getting better?
Yeah.
Because it's not like I can stop them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going to happen. So like, how do I try to push them in a better direction is like my optimistic entrepreneurial approach. And at the same time, like shit's going to go wrong. Like there's going to be mistakes. The pendulum's going to swing back and forth.
Right.
And I generally believe all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one of the theories, maybe it's Fermi's paradox, but of that one of the reasons we don't see other signs of life in the universe
Mm-hmm.
is that at some point life just extinguishes itself. Like it can't handle it. It overcomes the planet. It overcomes whatever it's doing and effectively taints its own habitat. And I had the joy of visiting Easter Island many years ago with my wife Amy. With Rapa Nui, which is one of the most remote inhabited islands now. It's a 4-hour flight west of Santiago, Chile.
It's not easy to get to.
Not easy to get
I've
to.
looked it up.
And wonderful place, really cool and mystical. And part of the thing there is that the island actually went extinct. There did have people that inhabited it, that lived there. And it's a small island. And they cut down all the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they had to leave.
Right.
Like, they just
Right.
like somebody cut down the last tree and they're just like, oh shit. Like,
Right. Right.
there's no more trees. Like, what do we do? Like, and the place went empty. And this was before writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's really some lost history there. Like there's incredible Moai, the statues that they built in the sand.
Yeah. An iconic, massive statue.
Yeah, that they don't really know the full story of because there is no written history.
Yeah.
And because the people all went away and, some moved off to other islands and eventually came back. But that's, that story, I think is something we've seen play out in habitats over and over again.
Yeah.
And we have to be really thoughtful about it. And so, yeah, that's why Elon's focused on getting to Mars.
Right.
Getting off this planet.
Yeah.
So that if this habitat gets tainted, it's not the only one.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that, I did a visioning exercise recently. I don't know if you read the short story I did.
I did.
Which is called God's Final Exam. So the visioning exercise with that is a way that collectively we could make it. What would be the collective awakening for humanity that would get people to collectively wake up and say, hey, we are genetically almost identical. Like if you take a 7-foot tall Black American basketball player and a 4-foot tall, Chinese monk, the genetic similarity is almost exactly the same. And we have all this programming though that tells us like, hey, I'm an American, you're a Chinese, or I'm a man, you're a woman, or I'm a Jew, you're a Muslim, or all these things that babies don't have. Like babies when they're born just are the divine little creatures, just look at each other with nothing but love. And so part of what my thesis on humanity is that we need to have a collective awakening to manifest that future of abundance for all, because we're building technologies that will take us there. Like it literally could be the most amazing future. It's the Star Trek future, right? Mars is just one of many planets. And Mars actually isn't a great candidate for many reasons, right? We've learned from our mutual friend, Richard Garriott, who is a big fan of Elon and helped a lot with SpaceX. But one of the things Richard says, like, hey, Mars, it just eradicates you. I mean, like just the radiation alone, like you've got to build underground, et cetera. Um, and part of how we could actually go to other planets is if we get to a point with AI, quantum computing, robotics, brain to computer interfaces where we can accelerate our technological progress to be able to see what the actual limits of physics are. Like, do we know that we can't travel faster than the speed of light? I mean, Einstein called quantum entanglement spooky Ashkin at a different distance because it broke his paradigm for general theory of relativity, like that these particles were moving in synchronicity. He's like, that can't be true. And so he said, I'm going to choose my religion as materialism, even though my mathematics shows that this is the case. And we only know what 4% of the universe is made of. We don't know what 96% is. We call it dark energy and dark matter. Well, maybe we should know, and maybe we should figure out how to navigate that. But we really could have this future where we could have that Star Trek future, right? We could actually go conquer other planets and, conquer is sounds like a bad word. I mean, like actually birth life on other planets and have that future, but only if we don't destroy ourselves. Do you think a lot about that? I think a lot about this for our kids and for humanity. I mean, I'm super, super happy with technology progress overall. But there are some pretty serious problems. Like we are being manipulated via social media right now, for example. There's no doubt that the algorithms are goal seeking to sell us more ads and leveraging our base fears. Like they're just algorithmically programmed for that. But I agree with Tristan Harris that it's both a utopia and a dystopia at the same time with social media.
I don't think human nature is going to fundamentally change. And humans are both social and competitive. And so, we are tribal. Like it's just like that's innate, I believe. And so it's really to me, like how the social structure evolves. And in your beautiful kind of vision of the future with, God's last question, it describes the end point, but not really like the transfer, like how did you get there other than just it happened, like people did this. And I think that the how is like, that's like really key. Like
Mm-hmm.
at some level, capitalism is this incredible thing we've had that is driving towards abundance, that's pushing human advancement and increasing quality of life, increasing the amount of resources available. And yet, there's a post-capitalism future.
Mm-hmm.
I do also believe. Like, I don't think we're there yet or anything. It doesn't mean we should do anything different right now.
Yeah, I agree.
But if we're really successful, when there is abundance, when there's energy abundance,
Mm-hmm.
well, we don't need capitalism anymore. Like, you can have all the things you want. There's robots to build whatever you want. There's plenty of planets and plenty of space. And there's a lot of sci-fi books that explore that vision of like, what's a world of abundance look like? One of my favorite are written by Alastair Reynolds. One of the particular ones called Aurora Rising, or The Prefect is another name it goes by, but about just kind of this world where everything that can be will be, because people want to live lots of different ways and they can. But also when people potentially live forever and aren't worried about dying, there's also different extremes of what could happen. Does that mean we suddenly become much more conservative? Like we don't want to take risks? Because right now it's like, well, like I'm going to go skydiving. I'm going to go climb that mountain. I'm going to go do that really fun thing because we only live once, right? But I'm going to die anyway. Like I might as well like try fun things, even if not like I'm trying to die, but like, even if there's some risk involved. But suddenly if there's like, well, but actually there's no risk. Like if I just stay home, like I'm definitely not going to die. Well, does that change the math? Like, does everybody just stay home?
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to go out, or is it the opposite? which the book also explores. Like, is it like, well, wow, like it's now my bar for thrill seeking is so high. I need to do like the most dangerous thing in the world, like the super extreme sports, because it's the only way to like feel alive, right?
Mhm.
And so I think those are all really interesting dynamics that could come into play. Um, but I don't think, to me, a everybody living in harmony, but and there's no conflict and there's no competition and there's no I'm not sure that's heaven.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of boring and like does the struggle of life give it meaning, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
so
let me
sports is one thing that we've evolved. What's the next sports?
yes.
That like
Well, let me unpack this because this actually isn't my read. So just to be clear, like, of course, I am an entrepreneur, so I'm always going to take risk. And there will be a large portion of humanity that is wired that way. Like the barrier to creativity is being shattered because of AI, which is great. Like the ability for me to write a short story. I mean, it took me 3 hours to write that. And I was able to call in the styles of Andy Weir, who, you turned me on to his most recent book, Project Hail Mary, which is fantastic and being made into a movie, and call in the character development style of Borges, to really build that out and paint that vision of a possible future. So one of the pushbacks I get, and I understand this pushback, is people say, well, Brett, are you suggesting that humanity is going to be like Bhutan, where they measure themselves on gross domestic happiness instead of GDP? And that's actually not what I'm suggesting. Like, there will be a portion of humanity in a world of abundance which thinks that way and measures that way. And then there'll be a portion that's hyper ambitious that wants to go find out what the laws of physics actually are. And they want to go to other planets and they want to go take the risk. Like you and I would probably sign up to be like, hey, let's go visit a quasar together. Or let's go to the edge of a black hole and see what that's like, and be there for the birth of a star. And that would be exciting, but would come with some risk, that is unquantifiable because it's never been done before. Like we would truly be pioneers. Um, or you want to start life on another planet. What I'm suggesting is that if we don't create the capability to transcend the mindset that we've had because of the way we've evolved, which made sense, that the more likely scenario, if we don't transcend it, is we destroy ourselves, because we're going to have technology that's more powerful than we can even imagine today. Like the ability for a terrorist to create a bioweapon is going to be extremely pronounced. With my thesis is open source AI is going to win. And that doesn't mean I'm operating from a place out of fear. I actually, again, I'm 95% certain that humanity is going to make it. And there's three reasons that I have that hope. One is we pulled together and we did figure out how to contain nuclear weapons. Now, if you're an alien visiting Earth today and you knew nothing about humanity and you were just trying to figure us out, you would pretty quickly zone in on the fact that we have more nuclear weapons today than we need by far. We could destroy the planet many times over today with the nuclear weapons we have. And then you would ask yourself as an alien, are they still developing nuclear weapons? And the answer would be yes. It'd be like, wait, hold on. They're still developing nuclear weapons, but they have more and they're doing it as a deterrence. And that's the driving force. But yet we haven't destroyed ourselves that way. We didn't destroy ourselves with smallpox. We had to globally collaborate on that. And actually, my good friend, you know him really well too, Byron Reese, he told me something which I had to actually Google because I hadn't heard it before. I didn't Google. I looked up via ChatGPT, which is humanity 50 to 70,000 years ago was down to 800 humans. And I had to look it up to like verify, and it's correct. It was between 800 and a couple of thousand, and it was during the Ice Age, and there was a super volcano that nearly extinct us. It just covered the Earth. It was so big that it just blacked out the skies. And if our core nature was evil, that would have been it. We would have just kind of destroyed ourselves, and that would have been the end of the human experiment. And I do think that this acceleration, it's one of those situations where with great power comes great responsibility. So I think this is the penultimate creation time for humanity through technology. And all these amazing things we're celebrating today, which I feel deeply in my heart, whether it's Icon or Aptronic or, Neuralink or Paradromics or any of these companies, they are showing us that we can get to an age of abundance for all. Like it's the beginning of that. But ultimately, it's still up to us collectively in humanity to leverage these technologies correctly. And we would not be in this race against China to build AGI before them if there wasn't some fear there. And China would not be in this race to build AGI before us if there wasn't some fear there. So that is our nature. But what I'm proposing is in that short story is we need to transcend our nature. That, there was a time where gay marriage was viewed as something that nobody could ever think would actually get passed as legal. But yet it did happen, and then society just changed. And so we have transcended many times.
I'm not sure. I mean, to me, that's like actually like not transcending our nature. That's just actually our nature is that's part of it. And so it was more like acquiescing to our nature.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm not sure that our nature, like, I think that's pretty fundamental. Like, that's what I was kind of saying before. Like, I just don't know that human nature changes.
I mean, it's funny that we're wearing
Human nature,
t-shirts, right?
I do. Yeah. So let's
So
talk about that.
this t-shirt actually is one of the training we got in the Henry Crown Fellowship.
Yeah.
Is what is human nature? Is human nature generally good or not? And there was the Thomas Hobbes view of Leviathan, which suggested that human nature is not good. And then there was the Eastern view that actually every baby, et cetera, is part of the divine and is a beautiful little, loving creature.
Yeah. Well, actually for me, this is also not, this is the executive's compass on our
Yep.
shirt. And it's not actually like a good or bad, right? Like, in fact, when I first saw it, one of the first things that really struck me is that my initial inclination was to think that liberty and equality
Mhm.
were synonyms, whereas here they're proposed as antonyms.
Right.
I would think when I first, without thinking about it, like what is liberty? And I'm like, oh, those mean the same thing. But actually what this shows is that liberty, which is the ability to do whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
is actually the opposite and kind of positioned as a zero-sum game where in order to get to equality, you give up liberty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because equality is everybody being the same.
Right.
And you have to enforce that because by naturally, people are not all the same and things get unequal.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you let everyone be free, they will be less equal. But if you force them to be more equal, they'll be less free. And then similarly, community and efficiency is really kind of letting the market and individuals drive and do whatever they think is best to push for advancement and the right outcome. Community is really taking into account externalities and what else, might come into play. And again, they see that as kind of a zero-sum game. Now, as you think about abundance, one of the things that I find most interesting is, does that change the math?
Mm-hmm.
In the world of abundance, is it a zero-sum game?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to give up freedom in order to have equality?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because there's so much more resources?
Yep.
Do we need to sacrifice community
Mm-hmm.
for efficiency when we have great technology and advancement and clean power and all these other things? And so for me, what's really, really fundamental when I think about the world of abundance and what might really fundamentally be different, how human nature might change
Yes.
in that world. It's the fact that, that this is a zero-sum game right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or, that's how it's positioned.
It is.
I'm giving up one to go to the other in every case. And could that fundamentally break the compass?
Yep.
And close the gap.
Yep.
between these different things.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the books that I read early on in leadership was written by my leadership professor at Wharton. He was the founder of that program, and it's called Total Leadership. His name is Stu Friedman. And his thesis on a total leader is that you could create maximization across multiple things that you would view as kind of a work-life trade-off. For example, you would go through this exercise in the Total Leadership book where you would say, okay, for family, how much time am I actually spending versus how much time I am? For career, how much time I'm actually spending versus how much time I optimally want to, community, et cetera. And you just go through, and then self, was one of them. So those were the 4 poles. And what he actually proposed in that book, which I thought was so brilliant, and we implemented this at Bazaarvoice, is that you could actually maximize if you thought kind of 4-dimensionally about those 4 at the same time, and you had the quote unquote brave discussions with your boss to talk about maximization. Like, hey, for example, very good example is, everything was done in person back then. It was pre-Zoom, and there was a woman who her parents were really struggling with their health in Houston, and everybody was based in Austin at that point in time in the company. And so she started talking about that book to her boss and said, do you think that I could spend like a couple of days a week in Houston because I'm really suffering? And my promise to you is actually my work productivity will go up. And guess what? It did. Right. And she would have never had that conversation had it not been for that book, because she felt that gravitational pull, like, we're all in person. I'm in Austin. I'm working for this great company. And I think that collectively humanity, if we enter that age of abundance, which I'm quite certain we will, humanity is going to have that collective discussion. And the big question mark in my mind, it is one, how do we collectively wake up to have that and change that aspect of our nature? Again, there'll still be competition, but it's competition that's not zero sum. There'll be competition, and I want to go to that planet and start life there. What is it going to take for us to collectively wake up? And that short story was a exercise at what it may be. And you may remember in the short story that the collective awakening happened when Dr. Alexander Bliss was able to definitively prove that we lived in a reality where the divine was part of it. And so humanity saw that together at that Telluride Film Festival, and it blew everybody's minds. They realized, science and spirituality actually are intertwined like the 2 serpents of the catechus, as opposed to these separate poles where it's like, if you're a scientist, then you believe there is no such thing as spirituality, or if you're a religious person, you believe that you have to believe all the stories in the Bible or the Torah or Quran, and so therefore, science is bogus. And the reality is they both can be true. There's elements of both that can come together, and that helped bring humanity together in a beautiful moment. But that's one. The second is, what would it actually take from a negative scenario for humanity to wake up? Like, what would the calamity need to be where humanity says, okay, we've got to wake up? Like for nuclear bombs, it was Hiroshima. It was like, that was the part where humanity was like, hey, we better collaborate on nuclear weapons, because what just happened there was absolutely horrific. But it stopped World War II. I mean, it was horrible, but it stopped World War II.
So, the classic sci-fi answer is discovering other life.
Yes.
Which then makes us all say, like, okay, shit, we're all humans.
Right.
We better band together and make sure we survive.
Right.
And, and drives to hegemony, to global, a global government.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thought, because Mustafa Suleyman, when he gave his TED Talk last year, he's the head of everything AI at Microsoft and the co-founder of DeepMind. It's interesting that he's the co-founder of DeepMind in charge of everything AI at Microsoft, and Dimas Hassivas is the other co-founder of DeepMind in charge of everything AI at Google. And one of the things that Mustafa said in his TED Talk is that he was trying to describe AI to his nephew. And his nephew, has that boundless curiosity, and he was really struggling to figure out how to describe it. And it crystallized for him, and he described it to his nephew as a digital species. He said, it's like a species. And he had to unpack that and what that meant. And it's interesting because Mustafa Suleiman's most recent, tweets, post on LinkedIn, et cetera, had been all about that we shouldn't apply consciousness and sentience to something that isn't sentient, that it shouldn't have rights like a human being, et cetera, so it's an interesting parallel because he was talking about his species there, and now he's backing off of that now because he's in the know, and he's like, no, these aren't conscious beings. This is technology.
Yeah.
So it's a way of me telling you that maybe the aliens are already here in a way, right? And I'm not suggesting the Terminator or the Matrix scenario. I don't believe that that's the scenario that we have to worry about. I believe the scenario we have to worry about is ourselves, and ourselves using these technologies to create vast harm at a scale that is unprecedented. And that's the part that I think we need to have that collective awakening. And my thesis is that we're going to get to a point where we can see the age of abundance over the horizon, and we can see it, and we can see that it's real, and we're going to end disease and everything else. And then we need to make a choice in the world of whether or not we grasp that together and stop the zero-sum thinking. And I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think, I think it has to be instigated by some
catalyst,
existential catalyst.
Yeah. That is a fear I have. I mean,
and I think there will be existential catalysts.
Yeah.
But it requires existential catalyst.
Yeah.
Like something that threatens humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
That says we have to all work together.
Yeah.
And then I think we will.
Yeah, I think we will. And again, I'm 95% certain that we will. And one of the things I'm exploring in the book I'm writing is what will it be that truly is existential, that all of humanity will look at and say, okay, we have to figure this out together. Because unlike nuclear weapons, AI is going to be infinitely portable. And I personally think that
and touch everybody's lives.
It's going to touch everything. It's not just everybody's lives, like every business, every organization, every NGO. And, it is going to be like electricity. And ultimately, my thesis, at least, and I'd love to know where you stand on this, is that I think open source is going to win. I think the frontier models will lead, and obviously they're generating tons of revenue now. But I think we're going to hit a moment where it's just obvious that open source will win, just like Linux won the internet. And the DeepSeek moment, the DeepSeek R1 moment, which was on January 20th, the day before President Trump announced the Stargate project alongside Mayushi-san, Sam Altman, and Larry Ellison, which is $500 billion of funding, more than we spent inflation adjusted on the Manhattan Project, and more than we spent inflation adjusted on the space race versus the Russians. The day before, that's when DeepSeek in China announced the R1 model, which is open source, which is vastly more powerful than GPT-4. And we're so far past that now in terms of the power of these models. And the thing that was shocking about the DeepSeek moment is the fact that, and we've got to take it with a little bit of grain of salt, but the DeepSeek, the company, said that it only took $16 million of funding to create that.
Yeah.
So it means that the weights can actually be stolen or borrowed or whatever, which means that these models, as they distill the massive amount of content into weights, they're portable. And that tells me that open source will win. Do you have a view on that? Or thesis on that?
I think it's more likely that the paradigm changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not an expert in the deep research of how AI works and the models work, but my understanding is that the fundamental core technology that we're working on has not fundamentally changed over the past few years. And primarily, we've just thrown more hardware at it.
Yeah.
So just more compute, more resources. Obviously, they've evolved it and they're optimizing it, but it's like it's working the same way. And that's why it just gets better with more hardware and more data.
Yeah.
And I don't think oh, I know who's got the answer or anything like that. But we are working with entrepreneurs who are looking at it from a different perspective, saying, is there a solution that takes just a fundamentally different approach that doesn't require
Mm-hmm.
all the compute resources and all the training, or other things like that, is not a transformer model.
Right.
Right. And that kind of shift, everybody's going oh, the market's going to be this because you can't do it unless you can, have billions of dollars of compute, and you have to be Elon Musk and build this big cluster, and it'll never work. Right. And it's well, yeah, unless you take a different approach that doesn't need all that compute.
Yep.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
and yeah, I don't know what that is, but I know really smart people that are trying to.
Yep.
And just when I kind of think I got shit figured out, usually somebody comes up with something different.
Yep.
So I think it's possible.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do think that
even
paradigm will shift. I mean, we're in the early innings of large language models or whatever will supersede them. Look, let's talk about Watts. So recently, you brought a film to Austin that you and I saw at the Aspen Action Forum, and it was a model. It was a model about how society could heal. You want to talk about that? I thought it was incredible. It was my second time to see the movie. That was just was that this week? I think that was this week that we saw that together.
Yeah, me too. And that was my second time also. And yeah, one of the most just raw and impactful films I've ever seen. And I really encourage anyone to watch it if they get the opportunity. I think there will be more opportunities. But the film's called Nothing to See Here, Watts. And it's a very unique film. It's a documentary. And it was created as an experiment by another Henry Crown Fellow, our friend Mike Sonnen. And he lives in the LA area, and he was exposed to the Watts community, which is a small community, but one of the poorest, least educated, and most shortest lifespan, highest crime rate areas in the country. And it has been that way for a long time. And it's one of the places that, nobody wants to go be a police officer. Everybody's trying to get out of. And it's really horrific, some of the things that go on there.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did is he just, without really knowing exactly what was going to happen, he took 20 iPhones and gave them out to 20 different, did some research on who, but gave them out to 20 different people in the community. Gang members, police, students, activists, and told them to just said, tell your story, and they had them for a while, for a year or two. And the result of that was some just really incredible, really raw footage that came back that surprised everybody, and bringing these really different perspectives together. And at that point, it almost felt like they had something kind of sacred, they didn't shoot, can an outsider come in and edit this? And so the next step was they invited the filmmakers, the people who had received the cameras, to come to a meeting, to come talk to each other. And these were not people who were very receptive necessarily to talking to each other. They're very distrustful. And they got them talking and showing each other the films. And in the process of learning about the film and hearing each other's stories, developed really unique bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And were able to humanize and understand each other a little bit better. And then through more effort, produced the film. They were the ones who really designed it and edited it and chose what the story was going to be, and it's incredible. And then the first people they showed it to were other gang members.
Yeah.
And really kind of got it out into their community. And the result of that was a community pact being signed. And an area that had seen 100 murders in the past 3 years saw 0 murders in the next 6 months after that pact was signed.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, approximately a 90% reduction in homicides.
Yeah.
So an incredible, measurable impact.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people saved, their lives saved from brutal murders and crimes. And all through people really relating and sharing And in a situation that had no hope, unthinkable, untenable, like we might compare even to Israel and Gaza, to Cuba, to other places that we've seen where there's no hope. But yet somehow they were able to get people to relate and to talk and to humanize each other and to actually really address some big problems.
Yeah.
And so that's an incredible story. It's a wonderful thing to see. It's really emotional. It's really moving. And maybe, just maybe, what they're hoping is that's a model that other people can use and can learn from.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, there was not a dry eye in the house at the Aspen Action Forum when it concluded, with the people that were part of that film, that made that film, all going on stage. And they had a chorus in Watts, which sang "Where the Streets Have No Name" from U2, which my coming of age album, I'm a little bit older than you, was the Joshua Tree. I mean, like, seeing Bono at 18, that was a transcendent experience. Like, that was at the Frank Erwin Center, which doesn't exist now in Austin. It's been replaced by better concert venues now. But that, I looked around. I had tears in my eyes, but there wasn't a dry eye in that house. And
But not only that, it was very moving. It's very sad. There are parts that are very emotional. It was our mother who had her son murdered, who was telling that story, and it was just so powerful. And yet, Mike, who helped make the movie happen, describes it as a love story. And by the end of the movie, that worked for me.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, it is a love story, because as much as it is super sad and it's disturbing, what you get through the story and through what happens from those people connecting is actually this just incredible feeling of hope and this spirit of love between all those people, and how much they love their community, how much they love Watts. And the love story is this love story of the community with Watts.
Right.
And even though it's, like, by some people's standards, one of the most terrible places in the country.
Well,
it's their community.
It is.
And they love it, and they care about it, and they care about the people there, and they care about their kids, and they want to make it better. And that's amazing. Like, you walk away feeling so good.
Yeah. Well, this is my biggest prayer for humanity, is that we wake up and collectively realize the beauty of the human race. Not just, the Crips and the Bloods and Watts waking up and saying we need to stop destroying ourselves, but that humanity has that collective awakening. And in my lifetime, that'd be a beautiful thing.
Look, Brett, I'm willing to make a pledge right now. I will stop gangbanging if you stop gangbanging.
Oh, definitely. I don't even, our gangs, you realize, would be extremely nerdy.
Yes.
I mean, totally nerdy.
Like, so it was a Catan battle, but.
Right. Well, hey, I want to make sure I thank you here in this podcast for believing in me over the years. It really means a lot to me. Our friendship means a lot to me. And your belief in me has really helped fuel me, and your belief in the Austin community and all the entrepreneurs you've helped have really meant a lot. And thanks again for nominating me for the Henry Crown Fellowship. It's been transformational for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being such a great friend.
Awesome.
Looking forward to many, many, many more years.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, brother.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to the Love Conquers Fear podcast. I thought that was a great episode. I really care so much about Josh Baer, and I'm very thankful for all that he's done here in Austin and beyond. And stay tuned. We've got a lot of guests coming up. Amazing entrepreneurs, amazing investors, amazing spiritual teachers and philosophers and scientists. And we'll keep having these discussions, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I hope all of you listening or watching are also having a lot of fun with it. This is a really, really important time for humanity. And we're really on the cusp of creating the age of abundance for all in this lifetime. Thanks again.